Hello YouTube and welcome to another Redis tutorial. So in this video I will introduce you to a very important security feature in Redis, which is ACL. So are you ready? Let's get started. So actually from version 6 in Redis you can implement ACLs. Okay, so if you have a version fewer than 6 you cannot use ACLs. Okay, so with ACLs, you can create actually multiple users and specify login and passwords, and also the keys and commands they are allowed to use for each user. Okay, so let me show you that with examples. So first of all, let me check if the service is running. So I will check if Redis is running, which I guess is always the case. Yes, as you can see here, it's active and running. Okay, so we'll use here Redis CLI in order to connect to it. Here we go. So the first command that you can use in order to check the current active ACLs is simply ACL list. So it shows us a bunch of information here. So you can see here we have a default username called default. So by default there is a username called default which is active. So this on here in the second line means it's the default user is active, and no pass means it has no password. So by default the default user has no password. And after that you see a bunch of info. So there is this tilde and asterisk, which means this default user has access to all keys. Okay, and another command plus arabesque all means that this user default can access all commands. Okay, so that's why by default you can execute, for example, the command keys, and it will show you all the keys that you have currently in your Redis database. So here I have a bunch of 2 keys, age and name. So because we have actually access to all commands and all keys, I can get my keys. Okay, so now let's start with a simple example. Let's create actually user and give him some permissions. Okay, so to set an ACL for user, we use just command ACL set user. Okay, so here let's create user name called, for example, Amina. Okay, and I will give him a password. So to give him a password, but before giving him a password we must give him logins. So we'll use the command on, which means this user is active. Okay, and to give him a password we use this greater sign. Okay, then we can here type our password. So I can choose, for example, as password secret. So you can choose whatever password you want. So here I have created a username called Amina. It's on, which means it's active, and it has as a password the word secret. Okay, and now I can also give him permissions to all commands. So I will here use all commands. So here all commands means this user Amina can execute all commands. Okay, but also I want him to access all keys. So I will just type here all keys. So here we go. So this user actually has all the permissions. Okay, it's active, it has as password secret, and it can access all keys and execute all commands. So I will hit enter here. Okay, so to check the active access control lists, as I told you, I will type access control list and keyword list. So here you can see now that a user has been added. The name for this user is Amina. It has this hash password we know it's secret, and it has all the access to all keys. This is what is tilde asterisk means. It has access to all keys, and it can execute all commands. So I can verify that. But before that, to verify the permissions for this user Amina, I have to switch to it, because by default I am the user default. So if you type ACL, who am I? So you can see that now I am the default username. So to switch to this user Amina, I will just type out the username Amina, and the password, of course, it's secret. Here we go. So now I am the user Amina, so I can execute all the commands and I can access the all keys. So let's verify that first of all using this command ACL, who am I? So this time I'm Amina, okay? So I can access all keys. So for example, I can use all the commands. So let me show you all the keys. So I get all the keys. I can use all the commands. So for example, let's set another key. So I will set, for example, the address key, and we'll give him a value, for example, 37 building S, for example. So here we go. I can get this key. So get the address key. Here we go. So I can execute all the commands I want because I give permissions to the user Amina. Okay. So now let's try to be more restrictive to this user Amina. Okay. So let me clear the terminal. So this time I want just to give the user Amina get command, not the set, only the get command. Okay, so how can I do that? So simply I will use ACL, but remember I am still the user Amina and I can execute all the commands. Okay, so if I type who am I am still Amina username. Okay, so I can execute all the commands I want. So let's be more restrictive. ACL set user. So of course it's Amina. It's on, which means active. So the password I can change it if I want, but let's keep it secret. So now I don't want him to execute all the commands, so I will type no commands. Okay, and I will restrict the set command, so he will not have permission to use the set command, but he can use the get command. Okay, here we go. So I have okay. So remember I am still the Amina username or the user now. So if I type ACL list in order to get the active access list, I won't have permissions because I removed all the permissions. I only have a get permission. So you see this error message. This user, which is Amina, has no permissions to run ACL commands because I have removed actually this commands. So I have to switch to the default username in order to check the active access list. So to switch, we'll use the command auth. So the username is the default and it has an empty password. So now I am the user default. So I can check that using who am I. Here we go. So now I can check the active access control list with ACL list. So here you can see our two user. We have the default username and Amina username. But here you can see this user Amina has only the get command permission. It has not the all commands permissions, and of course it can access all the keys. So let's verify that. So I will try to switch to user Amina, and I will try to set another key and to see if I can access or not. So let's switch to the user Amina, or use password secret. So now, yes, you see in here I have wrong password because I mistyped the password. So let's switch again. Amina, so secret. Okay, so now I'm on. So let's say that if I can execute the keys commands, so I removed all the commands, so normally I will get an error. So this is what we get. So for the user Amina, I have only the get command. So I can get keys. I can get key, for example, name. Here we go. I can get key address that we have set that before. Okay, but now let's try to set a new key. So for example, let's see a key, set the key, for example, Siri, and give him New York, for example. So what do you think will happen? So of course we'll have an error because this user has no permission. Okay, so you see here that we have actually the error. This user has no permissions because actually we have removed the set permission or the set commands for its ACL. It has only the get command permission. Okay, so let's switch back to our default user. Here we go. So now, as you can see, I still have our two active access list controls. Okay, so if you want to remove a user, or you can simply use the command ACL del user to remove any user you want. And here, because I am the default username and I have all the permissions, I can execute this command. So the user Amina cannot use this command because it has only the get permission command. But as I am the default username, I can use this command and I can remove this user if I want. Here we go. So let's check now the ACLs, the active ACLs that I have. And I have, of course, now only one username, which is called default because we have removed the Amina username. And of course, this default username has all, it can access all the commands and access all the keys. And of course, you can play with also to be restrictive for the keys. You can only allow certain users to access certain keys and not all the keys if you want. So here you see the power of ACLs, which were introduced in version 6. So that was just a brief introduction how to use ACLs in Redis 6. As always, I hope it has been informative for you, and I want to thank you for viewing. Bye bye.